moly, give that phone.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Ryno.
Holy moly, give that phone.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Ryno.
King's legend in the house. She's got the game on
Spread the word. It is Jerry Reynolds Wednesday. You know, we need to come up with a new song. This says Tuesday. Jerry will be here at 3:30. Can't wait for that. The NBA Finals kicking off as well. We'll do a post-game show tonight for the finals. So why don't you drop by? Immediately after the final buzzer, Grant and I will break down game one. Plenty of storylines going into this one, both on the court, off the court. I saw a funny post online from somebody in the local media about how it feels like there's 97 people staying in his home because they're not used to all this attention in San Antonio. So we'll be here for it. So hopefully you'll be able to join us as well. Get your questions loaded for Jerry. Certainly Rick Adelman. We'll talk to him about Rick's passing, the draft process, the finals, whatever you want to ask Jerry. As long as if I can't read it, then it's too obscure. Let's just put it that way. So some of you that like to get cute and ask Jerry wrestling questions, pro bowling questions. Yeah, if I can't read it, it's not going on the screen. But other than that, we'll be here for it. And selfishly, when we were doing our other thing earlier this year, this was the one show that I was really, really going to miss. So selfishly, I am happy that this is back. Y'all are back, and we're able to go long form with Jerry here. It's a lot of fun. So he'll be here at 3:30 today. Let's check in with all of you first before we start cracking open the lid on the finals. And also, what about this whole James Dolan and Charles Oakley thing, man? It just keeps escalating. I'm so sick of James Dolan. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll reset it for you. And then you've got the Knicks and the Spurs. Which way you going in game one? What do you think? Today is a great day to wear Kings gear. Yes, it is, because Jerry's going to be around. Athena.
You don't get the show.
I think, okay, I get it. Athena's making a joke. Yes, that would not make the screen with Jerry. No, because then it's awkward here. Jerry's going to look at me and be like, excuse me? We're friends, but that's kind of over the line a little. Just kidding. I see you got the Knicks tonight. I was leaning Spurs, but I think I'm going to piggyback, buddy. Telly, look, Telly, if this was like one of those things, what Telly's talking about is Prize Picks. If you want to get on there, do it. Join us. Telly's part of it. You can see what I'm doing. I can see what you're doing. America's #1 daily fantasy site. Use promo code Ryno50. Get you $50 in free play after your first $5 lineup. The cool thing about Prize Picks, you are not playing against a million people. You're not playing against sharks. You're playing against the numbers. So if you get the game, if you understand basketball at a different level, or maybe it's baseball, maybe it's hockey, heck of a first game last night in the Stanley Cup Finals. We hit that too, Telly. Not sure if you noticed that. But yeah, so you pick 2 to 6 players, choose more or less, and let their picks and projections win the night for you. You can also, there's a teams feature there. So you can choose. I chose the Knicks tonight with a 2.25 multiplier. The reason I chose the Knicks is, and I know Grant does not put much into this, they're rested. They're rested. Now, the wild card for me is Mitchell Robinson. What the heck is Mitchell Robinson's hand going to be able to do? I heard Dr. David Chow talking earlier today about the injury, and he says it's not really a fractured pinky. It's a fracture right below the 5th metatarsal, but it wasn't a spiral fracture. It was more of like a boxer's fracture. So the hardware should hold it together. But like when I think about Mitchell Robinson's game, it's hands everywhere. It's slapping the backboards. It's, trying to tip it balls. So you wonder what that pain tolerance is going to be, how he's going to be able to endure. And then these guys are going to have to get a feel for what this is going to be a different group, by the way, with the officiating. They're going to have to get a feel for how this is going to be reffed the next maybe 7 games, maybe 4 games. We'll see, and get a feel for each other. What's acceptable, what's not on Wemby. So I'd say you probably for the Knicks, your 3 guys that are going to get some Wemby time: Mitchell Robinson, Cat, and then I would not be surprised if Mikal Bridges got a little bit of time on Wemby as well. So I do think, okay, let me get back to my original point, to Telly's point. Because you can monitor it throughout the game, I think the Knicks will be up at some point in the second half tonight. So with Prize Picks, you can pull it back and get your money out early if you'd like. So that's why I'm going Knicks. I do think the Spurs probably win, though, but we'll see. We will see, but I'll be watching the game closely. Tristan's got a good question for Jerry. Been working on it all night. Good enough. Should be a good game. I think it should be a good game too. It's going to be electric there. I think you're going to see a lot of Knicks fans that made the trip as well. They are just crazy, nuts. Holy moly! Hey, Jer and Ryno, Bob Boley. Yeah, I know. I need to get that drop back from Todora. Todora, get ready for bed. You are in Serbia. You got school tomorrow. Jerry Reynolds Wednesdays. Yep, we're here for it. So he'll be here in about 20 minutes. No shortage of things to talk about. And the great thing about this is we get Jerry every single week on Wednesdays. So we are going to be able to really dig into some of the minutia that I think some of you really like. And there's also a lot of levity with him and I. So if you're not into the minutia, it's entertaining usually for the most part. Peter tried to sign up for Prize Picks, but I couldn't fund my account due to location restrictions. So I quit. Okay, that's weird because it's legal in all states. Maybe you got to give permission on your phone for location services, Peter. I don't know. Holy crap. Can't believe it's already Wednesday. What's up, Johnny? How you doing? Foxy, first NBA Finals for him. Is a Spur, so Knicks my choice? Well, Foxy, is a Spur, so Knicks is my choice. Say that 10 times fast. Carmal, well done, I guess. Okay, really quick. This popped up. So I've been very lucky to be involved with Jim Rome's show for a while. I really appreciate him. I really appreciate his entire team. It's given me a platform. So when I have the opportunity, I tune in to Jim Rome's show. And he had Charles Oakley on the other day. And if you don't know about Charles Oakley, Knicks legend, by the way, really just like one of those garbage can guys that just did a little bit of everything. As Jerry would say, he was the shitbird for some of those really good Knicks teams back in the day with Ewing and Starks, etc. Him and James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, who you could do an entire show on what's wrong with this guy and why arguably he is he is the worst, like as a person, in my opinion, the worst in the NBA when it comes to owners as a person. Well, see that little circle right there on the screen? That's like 8 security guards telling Charles Oakley a couple years ago that he could never be back in Madison Square Garden. So the Knicks are making this run. He's going to road games, and and he's not allowed in the Garden still. It's gotten even pettier. And I couldn't believe what Charles said on the Rome show, not because of the context of who we were talking about, but to the extent that James Dolan has gone to keep this guy away from the organization. And wait till you hear how he characterizes Jim Dolan's business. Here's Charles Oakley on the Rome show.
Nick, great. Are you going to be in that building for game 3?
No, they're not letting me in the building. Hey, Jim, it's bad. I was in Atlanta. I went to a game, and I went to a game in Cleveland. Them guys cannot speak to me when the owner's around. It's bad. How can you play with someone for 10 years? And when you see him, been to my mother's house 25, 30 times, we've been in the trenches. I mean, it shouldn't be about money. It shouldn't be about he paying you this and that. You can't speak to me? And a lot of fans get mad at why he should speak to you because you said he wasn't a leader. It ain't got nothing to be about being a leader. I went to war with him no matter if he was the leader or not. I still went to war with him.
I want to be clear about this, Oak. What we're talking about is when you were in Cleveland, you saw Patrick Ewing and even John Starks, right? And then
Allen Houston, Walt Frazier. I watched the celebration. I was at the game. I was on the court.
And these guys won't communicate with you.
I mean, that guy, he's a bully over there. He running a plantation. I mean, everything he do is a plantation move. Even back when he sent 8 guys to jump on me. There's no way in the world that in the sport someone played that 10 years or something like that happened and he didn't get punished for it. The commissioner didn't suspend him or fine him. He was there. It could have been a ride. So he make all the owners look bad what he's doing now. I mean, I feel sorry for the guys who he's paying money, but he shouldn't have that much control. You can't speak to somebody, you know. I heard things about him doing that. Now I see it for myself. It's embarrassing.
Charles Oakley, 19.
Quote, he's running a plantation. Charles Oakley is not the first player that has made those types of references, but what a piece of garbage James Dolan is. I mean, even look at how the whole situation, and this is just recently, how he cut Tibbs out, let him go. You hire Mike Brown, and you send Mike Brown to the podium by himself to introduce himself as the head coach of the most important team in the NBA. What? So yeah, it's so petty, so stupid. And what sucks is he's got the golden goose, right? MSG, the Knicks. Those fans aren't going to stop supporting him. He's not going to get pushed out. So I know that Sacramento has it pretty rough when it comes to ownership, but Vivek's problem is not what James Dolan's problem is. Let's put it that way. So, anyways, that struck me. Anytime you hear a player say he's running a plantation, my teammate, think about that level of control. Patrick Ewing Starks, all those guys, Walt Frazier, are falling in line. Like, this guy has that much power that they cannot say a word to Charles Oakley if he's around. It's insane. Silly. Stupid. Any other adjective along the same lines that you want to throw at it. It's idiotic. So, anyways, what we're all ready for tonight, the finals. Luckily, there is not a massive gap in between game 1 and game 2. That's the worst thing usually about the NBA finals. So maybe it does benefit the Spurs a little bit. I think this is going to be a fun matchup. I don't know if the Knicks, though, can match the physicality of the Spurs. In fact, the Knicks have not seen anything like the Spurs this postseason in terms of size, in terms of depth. They haven't. And so are they going to be up for the challenge? The one thing that will put this series in their favor, or at least give them a chance tonight, is if they continue to shoot the 3 ball at a 40% clip, which they're shooting it at right now in the postseason. That's insane. So if they come in there and they're knocking down shots, I think it's going to be an interesting ball game. And ultimately, it comes down really to one guy, right? It's Wemby. Where's Wemby going to be at? How's he going to play? Can Mitchell Robinson, as I mentioned at the top of the show, negate him in any type of way? Maybe. The problem with Mitchell Robinson is not a perimeter guy. He's an inside guy. So while I like how he matches up with him physically, I don't know how much I like Mitchell Robinson on the perimeter. Now, what have we seen with the Spurs that gets them in trouble? It's when Wemby is not getting the ball inside. I read the stats for you, I think going into game 6, where Wemby's catches were like 12 to 13 feet away from the basket as opposed to 6 or 7 feet in game 1. You get to game 6, his catches are right there inside the basket. Same thing for the most part in game 7. So can Wemby keep that level and play those major minutes? We'll see. And can the Spurs stay healthy? That's the other thing. Foxy's ankle is still tweaked. Harper's still got the oblique, but they have not shown any signs of slowing down. And the Spurs can catch fire too from beyond the arc. Devin Vassell had a very bad game 7 shooting wise, but Champagnie, my goodness, it seems like one of those guys is always hitting at any given time. Keldon Johnson off the bench. This is going to be a fun one. I think, I don't think, I have to, because I picked them a few months ago. Spurs are going to be your NBA champions. But I would not be surprised if tonight's competitive, and I definitely would not be surprised if the Knicks end up getting out of San Antonio with game 1. John, I know this is the King's Court, but Ryan, did you watch hockey last night? I did. It was incredible, John. What a game. What a game. Vegas just they just kept coming. What was it? Was 5-2? Was it 5? Yeah, 5-2 after Carolina got out to a 2-0 lead, like in the first few minutes of the first period. What's up, Kevin? I am going to be outside Frost Bank Center for the game. No way. Heck yeah. Good stuff, man. Kevin, is it even tough getting close to the building right now? I would think, is there a lot around the building there in San Antonio? I think you said you were going to be like having a beer yesterday. That's cool, man. What are tickets going for right now? Anyways, let's look. What do you guys think tickets are going for the NBA Finals? What's the get in the door price? I'm going to say $700 is the get in the door price. Let's see. Thank you. Prices include all fees. All right, let's see these tickets. 2 tickets. She won't show me everything. Okay, get in the door. What an idiot. somebody has tickets in section 202, which is literally they're halfway up, top level, and they're in the corner. And they listed them at $2,000. You're not selling those. You're going to eat those probably, or you're going to go to the game. Get in the door price is low 800s. Most expensive ticket that I see right now is $186,361. That's in San Antonio. What do you think New York right now is? Let's look at New York really quick. Get in the door price in New York. Holy bleep. Okay, get in the door price is $1,949. And that is significantly less than a lot of the other tickets that are in similar areas. Most expensive ticket right now on StubHub that I can see, $96,755. That's for the Garden, Game 3 on the 13th. Pricey. It's like it was back in the day with the Kings. Standing room only for the Kings was $150 a pop if you could find them. That's in 2002, so inflation, that's a $400, $450 ticket right now. Would y'all agree with that in today's terms? My man Haunted Horse in the house. Don't believe it's legal. It is. At least that's what that's what their stuff that they send me says. Legal in all 50 states. I think Dolan is becoming senile right in front of our very eyes. He's been senile. Just go listen to his music. Thinks he's a musician. Yeah. Ryno, when you're without Grant, you just talk nonstop. Even when Grant is alone, he takes time to pause and breathe. Cool. That's Grant's style. I have my style. Appreciate it, though. There's bars around the arena. What's up, Flores? We getting ready for Jerry Reynolds. Be here in about 7 minutes. Yeah, no clue on the tickets. Tickets will be way more in New York. Yeah, we just proved that. Question. Okay, we've got our first Jerry question. Oh my gosh. Jerry's not going to know about any of that. We'll see what he says. I have no need to get a passport right now. I'm not going anywhere, at least internationally. I'm here with you Monday through Friday. King's Court. Building the brand. $2,000 to get in the door, yeah, in New York. Insane. Haunted Horse is going to fight me. Okay, what state is it not? No, I looked it up, and it is not really Nevada. It's legal. And when the Wisco person tried to sign up 3 years ago, yeah. Well, now they've changed. It's legal in Wisco. I have somebody in Wisco that's doing it, but Horse knows his stuff. Horsey knows his stuff. So, anyways, finals tonight. The hockey game, fire last night. That series is probably going 7. I don't think either team is going to sweep. I think probably Carolina wins the next 2. They'll get one back in Vegas, or maybe they'll be 2-2 coming back to Carolina. I think it's going to go 7. Really interesting. The talk continues about baseball in Sacramento. I don't know how I see that working out. Ryan, I need you to ask Jerry if he's watching the finals. Okay. Well, we've got some Jerry questions lined up. As I said, doing what we were doing before took this away from me. And my favorite day was Jerry Reynolds Tuesdays. And we've turned them into Wednesdays. I can't talk right now. I need some more coffee. But anyways, super happy, super excited to be getting these things back here with Jerry, with all of you. A lot to talk about. Some of it sad, some of it melancholy, but so honored to have my buddy, the legend, Jerry Reynolds, joining us right here on the King's Court. Jerry, welcome back, buddy.
Well, it's great to be back with you, Ryno. Really, I've missed you. I really missed those Tuesdays. I do think Wednesdays is probably will work better for me.
Good.
Going forward. So, if it's good for you and the fans, and then I'm a happy camper.
We are happy as well. We're happy we can get a little bit of your time, especially right now in the off season. And I've been missing seeing you. So good to catch up. I got to ask you right off the bat, with the passing of Rick Adelman, somebody that you spent many years around. He mentioned you in his Hall of Fame speech. What came to mind when you found out about the news, Jerry?
Well, it's obviously very sad. I have so much respect for Rick, not just as a coach, but as a family man and a man. And, our relationship, I think a lot of people don't realize, goes back to his playing days with the Kansas City Kings. I was a college division coach at Rockhurst University in a Jesuit school in Kansas City, and the Kings practiced on our court. They didn't have a practice site. That was a lot of fans don't realize that's kind of been the last 15-year kind of development in the league. But and I got to know Rick. He was really near the end of his career, and he was fighting for a spot on the Kings. I think later on he was waived and finished his career with the Bulls. But I got to, we got to talking because he knew he was near the end, and kind of was interested in what I was doing, college division coach, what it was like, because he felt that's probably what he would do, which of course he did do for a few years in junior college, coached junior college for a number of years. So that's where we started, and then we both I think I was an interim head coach. I think the first year that Rick got his shot as being a head coach, and so we had that tie, and of course we were assistant coaches at the same time as well. So we go way back, and then obviously the 8 years with the Kings, very very comfortable for me. Such a creative and coach. I always said I think he's probably the most underrated great coach in the NBA history, probably. Partly because he didn't win a championship, but he won one. The league stole it. But in my opinion, nothing's going to change. I think a lot of people feel the same way, and there's plenty of evidence. But other than that, had great success in Houston and Sacramento and Portland, two NBA Finals teams, and people. I heard a writer once say, "Well, he couldn't win the big one." I said that was against the Jordan Bulls. Nobody won the big one against the Bulls.
Amen.
He probably didn't have a single player that could have started for the Bulls.
So true.
And then, they were the best in the West. But anyway, so, there are a couple of things about him. I think sometimes he was misunderstood a little in that, with Rick, he really didn't, he just wanted to do a couple of things. He wanted to coach his team as best he could, and go home to his family. His family was first, and his job was second. He treated them both, give 100%, and I just admired the heck out of that. He just wasn't into the media thing or doing anything like that if he could avoid it. Yeah. And I had a lot of respect for him, and I'll always. Of course, I've said this before, but one of the things where Rick and I had a good relationship I think his first year with the Kings, I came to a shoot around because you always went to the shoot arounds, the media, and I was doing TV then. I still run the Monarchs and all that too. But he came up to me. He said, Jerry, says, what the hell are you doing here? He said, he said, you can't learn anything these shoot arounds. He said, quit wasting your time. Go enjoy, have a walk, or just take a nap. He said, if there's anything important or different, I'll tell you. He said, and I very appreciate it. He said, you know more about it than I do. So, just relax. And that was the last shoot around I went to. And I've been eternally grateful, because it is a waste of time for the media. And for the most part, I mean, especially if you kind of get the drill. But I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. And one last thing, I had Rick called me in March. I think it was about the second week. He'd actually heard I'd had some health issues, which I did, and was calling and just to visit. We had a nice visit, and finally, we got around to. I knew that he was struggling, and he did admit that, things weren't going well with him. He's hoping that it'd get better, but at the time, I told my wife, I said, I'm not at all sure Rick didn't call as a kind of a one last time kind of thing. So, but I was so glad that we got to spend time, and I honestly tried to call him about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I, didn't get through, didn't get a return. So I knew probably things weren't good. So very sad day. And, one last thing on Rick, and I've said it many times, and I'll say it again, the fact that he doesn't have a jersey or something retired is one of the tragedies of this franchise. And honestly, it's the point now, it's insulting. If I were his family, I wouldn't accept it, even if it was offered. I mean, he was here 8 years, 8 playoff teams, 3 different kinds of teams, and, found ways to get mileage out of all of them. And, there's players' jerseys up there from the Kings hanging up.
Yeah.
That none of them played on 8 teams.
Yeah.
Not a one of them had as much impact overall on the franchise as Rick did, in my opinion. So,
I questioned it yesterday. I said, the Kings right now, this ownership has no problem bringing around players from the past and putting them places within the broadcast or whatever it might be, having them around, right? And it's like, how is Rick not have something already hanging in the rafters? Is there a reason, Jerry, that you think he hasn't had that honor yet? Or maybe would he have declined that offer?
Well, it's a great question. I don't know. He might have well declined it in the last few years. I don't know. I know early on he certainly didn't have the opportunity. But I think that kind of ship passed once he was put into the overall NBA basketball hall, or the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield. Right. That's the ultimate honor. And so yeah, I really don't have an answer. It does seem like to me the franchise has always wanted to recreate the glory years with the players, but nobody else.
Yeah.
I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, it's one of those things to where it's been Rick or Jeff or even myself or whatever, anybody that's been associated with the team, Wayne Cooper, certainly have never been invited to anything much, and which is fine. So I think it's just a little different way of approach. And there's no disrespect to those players; they ought to be remembered, But it's also true as a Kings fan now, which I am. It's time to move on. It's been long enough. Let's focus on, give the guys credit for what they did, and let's try to find new stars to give credit to.
So how is it going to come across to the people that were part of that era, those that have not been invited back, if the Kings do something now to honor Rick Adelman? Is that going to be disingenuous to many of you?
It would be to me. I can only speak for myself. I think it's too late. I mean, I just think it's too late. I mean, Rick has passed. Rest his soul and rest in peace. But so it, in my mind, when it should have happened, when he could have, appreciated it, was probably when he retired from coaching with the Timberwolves. Would have been a good time. and certainly before the Hall of Fame thing. But it is what it is, and I mean his record speaks for itself.
Amen.
His life speaks for itself, and so those things are just things that people like me get upset about because I really feel like he was shortchanged. But I'll say this for Rick: I don't think he's probably spent very much time thinking about it. That just wasn't who he was.
Grant shared a story about Trent riding on the airplane with them and some levity with Rick. And so, of course, one of your favorites, Tristan, says sorry for the loss of Rick Adelman. Is very private. Publicly, is there a behind-the-scenes story, funny or meaningful, that Kings fans may want to hear?
That's a great question. Rick was he was a very private person and really didn't get close to me. The only thing that I always thought was funny, which I always told him, and because I called him Mr. Cheerful a lot because he was just the opposite of that, and he would tolerate it from me, I think. But I always remember telling him, about when his son David got the head coaching job. I said, it's pretty clear that he's got some of your coaching genius and then talent for coaching and creative coaching. But I said, he's also got your wife's personality, thank God. And and he really started laughing. He said, yeah, I got to admit, that's probably a good thing that he got more of my wife's personality than mine. And I think the other thing comes to mind that I think of Rick a lot is, he would, during the few bad times he had as a coach, if he lost a couple games in a row, which wasn't very often, 2 or 3 in a row, he'd always want to come in and visit and talk basketball with me and just going through the old days as much as anything before he got to the Kings. And I asked about that. He said, yeah, it just helps to kind of, when things are going good, we can talk to you and we can bullshit about how it was back 20 years ago and stuff to kind of get back on track. And I always thought that was interesting, and I always thought too, I need to do more of that myself at the time.
Hey, I get it. I understand why Rick liked to do that. I like the same. And I think we can both agree that no Kings coach is going to be coming anywhere near 69 playoff games coached anytime soon, Jer.
Not in my lifetime. I mean, I know I did for it to happen. I'm going to have to live to be at least 150. So that's a lot.
That's it?
That's
just 150?
That's a lot of pressure, Ryno. I don't think I can get it done.
Hey, Jerry, technology these days is pretty crazy, my friend. Peter says, Mr. Reynolds, what do you think of the changes the NBA has implemented to discourage tanking and how it might impact the Kings in the future?
Well, I don't particularly care for it, to be honest. I mean, I thought there was better ways to go, but they went the way they did. So every team's in the same boat. I think what it means to me is in the past, you had 3 ways to really improve your team if you're a bad team. The draft was probably the best. Mm-hmm. Your best chance of getting the stars through the draft. But then, of course, trades and then free agency. Well, now I think trades and free agency probably move ahead of the draft as your most important things. Now, to get into free agent market, you got to have cap room, of course, which Kings don't have right now.
Right.
And so, and trades, to make good trades, you generally have to have people that the other people want, assets. And so there again, probably don't have the assets that you would really like. So, yeah, I think in a summary of the draft will still be there, but I do think trades and free agency become more important than before. And then the draft itself, just because you won't have the chance or less of a chance of getting the top pick, you just can't miss on picks. And then maybe then the final thing, it means this year you have to hit.
Yeah.
You cannot have a miss this year. You just can't.
So, two questions on that. The first question is Memphis voted against the proposal. And as a Sacramento team that is at the start of a rebuild, I questioned whether or not the Kings should have voted against the proposal as well. I'd never been inside the GM's office and the owner's office making those decisions. I don't get that etiquette, Jerry, but would it have been improper for the Kings to vote against a proposal like that?
No, no, not at all. I mean, I think that's the reason you have votes is to vote your conscience or what you think is best, for your franchise as well as the league. I think probably the majority of teams did think it was what was best for the league. Now, having said that, I think there's individual teams that really isn't best for them. Memphis, I think, is fair in how they looked at it. I think the Kings, I think Portland, Utah, a lot of the small market teams, I think that's not in their best interest because that's still the best way, generally speaking. I mean, Oklahoma City's an outlier there. They didn't get their superstar by draft, but in general, to get a superstar for a small market, that's usually the best way.
Yeah, it's the draft, and that's, I think, speaking for myself and knowing fans that we talk to, their outlook on free agency, their outlook on trades is not necessarily that great because the Kings are a small market team. It was always the draft first. I was one of those people that said it's simple. All you need to do is go to the NFL model and institute the language that was at the end of the proposal that said Adam Silver has the ability to change odds, change picks, etc. Expanded his abilities to punish teams for tanking. And I guess my question is that the Kings' strongest thing to rely on with this new system? If you really are in a rebuild, now you have to play your guys all the time. If you've done it the right way and you just stink and you're at the bottom of the relegation zone, is that what you rely on? We can make a case to the commission. This ain't fair to us. We're not tanking, but we don't deserve to have the 25% odds of getting the 12th pick.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's a great point, and I think that teams, if they're in that position, I mean, they win 20 games, but they're trying to win every one. The commissioner should look at that different. I think there should be some. I don't know exactly what the difference would be, and I think because really. I think what the league was against, and I get it to a degree. I mean, absolute tanking. It's embarrassing for the league to have teams not trying to win. Especially in the sense of holding the stars out.
Right.
And even the bad teams have stars or key guys that people pay to see. And so you get it from that degree. But your point is really the accurate one in that. Teams that are trying to win should have better odds. And hopefully the commissioner would understand that not like a Utah situation where they clearly didn't want to win, or Indiana clearly didn't want to win and did everything they could not to win. I think, probably with the Kings and with Washington and teams like that. Well, they just couldn't win enough. I mean, the Kings were trying to win some at the end, but I think Washington was, for the most part, was trying to win. They just couldn't.
Yeah, but they sat two guys out, Jerry. And Trae Young never. What did he get suspended before he dresses a game?
Yeah, that would be the real thing there. With now Davis and he were both hurt when they were traded, so you'd have to know. In my mind, really, the league should have looked into that with a doctor to find out if in fact they could play. Now they didn't. I think they played one game or something, or Trae Young did, but had some issues. But I don't think Davis ever played, and so that's where you get into tough stuff. Having team doctors, basically say they can't play. It's pretty hard to say they can, and that's why I've always said there ought to be a league doctor that kind of can overrule it, can go into every team and say, No, he's okay to play, and he needs to play, that sort of thing.
It's a great point. We were just talking about it with the Giannis situation. And, the NBA PA filing their appeal about Giannis not getting to play. I mean, do you at some point have a doctor that's independent on behalf of the Players Association that's that buffer?
I think you have to. I really do. I mean, I think that's one thing. If I were the league, I would negotiate for, and I would think probably that you could get that with because the Players Association is mostly concerned about money, and so.
Yeah.
But I think you could get that. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, you have a bunch of people paid to oversee the officials on the floor, and watching calls and games, and that's very important. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, but why not oversee injury reports? Because it's certainly been the history of the league, and going back to my days in the '80s, where guys miss games, and always the same thing: back spasms, flu-like symptoms,
Right. Right.
Strained calf. And in some cases it was true, but mostly it really wasn't.
You know what the teams don't use enough? Personal reasons.
Yeah, then you sort of get some of those personal reasons, and the personal reason was I'm really tired, I don't want to play.
Hey, personal reason, right?
That's very personal. Yeah.
Zach, thanks for being here. Jerry answered it about 10-15 minutes ago about Adelman and what the Kings should have done. So go back and watch that replay. I'm not going to ask Jer to recap it again. We've got a draft question for you about here we go. Jerry, who had a higher ceiling between the drafts or who has the higher ceiling, and does that wait, okay. Let me start this over. Who had a higher ceiling between the drafts, and does that sway his decision when drafting? I think you're.
Yeah, I think I get it. In other words, just asking, like with the draft, if you're looking at players and you're not sure which one do you think has the higher ceiling, and I think when you're in the lottery, I think that's exactly what you should look for. Let's say you think two players are basically equal, and let's say 2 point guards, and you really need a point guard, and you really can't make a decision on where they are today. But you think for some reason or another, size, athleticism, age, there's many things, just or personality, whatever it may be, gives the one player an edge and a higher ceiling, a chance. Because what you're really looking for, and I've said this many times with the Kings, they need to get a star, and so. I mean, you can't win in the NBA without a legitimate star, somebody that's the top. If you look at teams contending for championships, any of the top 5 or 6, they've got an all NBA player on their team.
Yeah.
So you have to get one if you're going to contend, and so that's why if you're going to take a risk, I'd say always take the risk on the ceiling. Things that. Some of those kind of edges you think that gives the guy a better chance to be a star.
So I know there was a lot of questions about this before you came on, questions over the last couple of weeks, a lot floating around that the Kings are enamored with Darius Acuff Jr. Scott Perry went out to meet with Kingston Flemings this past weekend in San Antonio. Jerry, you've spoken high of Acuff Jr. I'm sure you've watched some tape of Flemings. How do you compare and contrast those two players?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, Wagler, I like him a lot. I like Braden Burries a lot. I think he's a little bit underrated, to be honest with you. One of those guys that might be taken later and people regret that he was. But between, just Flemings and Acuff, Flemings is I think got the advantage as far as he's a better defender. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
But it's also no doubt that Acuff is a much better offensive player, and that's also the numbers would bear that out. I like Acuff's body better. He's thicker and a little longer, and so that's an advantage. Like I say, I would be happy with either. I think that the ceiling, maybe for Kingston Flemings might be Drew Holiday.
Okay. I had said Mike Conley. Do you think that falls in
Yeah.
line?
Yeah, I think he's a little bigger, stronger guy, but he's probably somewhere. Yeah, he's kind of in between there somewhere, which
Okay.
is a good place to be.
It's a great place to be.
Those are terrific players, and the teams that have had them, for the most part, I've been pretty happy. I mean, with Holiday, of course, played on a championship team with Boston and Milwaukee.
That's right.
And, I always remember I spent time with him during the draft. He came out, and I always said he might have been the most intelligent. He and Steve Nash were probably the two guys that asked all the best questions, had the most background. They were just really impressive young people to be around. You knew they'd be good. You didn't know how good. And
yeah.
So I think to have now with Acuff, honestly, I see a little bit of Kyrie Irving. I see some Allen Iverson. I mean,
wow.
Iverson himself has said he sees a lot of himself in Acuff, just his ability to get shots and make shots and beat people off the dribble. So, having said that, there's clear, maybe a little higher ceiling for Acuff, than Flemings, but and it's not to say Flemings might not be the better pick. And then, then with Wagler, who knows if he's there? As a late developer, which I love, a late developer with the size at the guard position. You might have a really kind of special player going forward. So the Kings are in a great spot. They're going to get a really good player. They just have to get the best one. In my mind, the guy maybe has the best that they're looking at to be a star, I think, would be Acuff. And my opinion is no better than yours or anybody else's.
Yeah.
But we're just talking star, and the Kings. And if it were me, and if you did draft Acuff or Flemings, I damn sure would trot them out there the first day.
Amen. So
I think that veteran mentorship crap. I always remember that's one of the things about Rick Adelman talking. Jason Williams was a rookie. He said Jason Williams is playing.
Yep. And I think that is the I don't want to say the line of patience with this fan base and Doug and bringing him back, but I think that's where the line's at. If you do not play the young guys and you go back to playing heavy minutes with vets, you're going to have unless you're winning, you are going to have a not very good reaction from this fan base. Speaking of Doug, I want you to listen to what he described, because him and Scott Perry both said that point guard was position of need going into the offseason. This was Doug in Exits.
Right off the bat, point guard, this is in this league, if you don't have that position, you really don't have a chance. It's the quarterback. It's they say quarterback in football and different things, and that's a tough position. But this one is about as difficult as it gets. You're running a team, you're running a show, you're responsible for the guys on the court. You're quarterbacking the defense, you're quarterbacking the offense. This guy needs a shot, that guy needs a shot. When do I need to do my thing? What does the coach want? Am I representing him the right way out here? I'm the head of the snake. There's a lot that goes into that.
And that's the type of point guard that the Kings have not had for the last 3 years. That's the type of point guard that Domantas Sabonis asked for at Exits last year. And so I guess my question is, when I put that format or I put that template to the two players that we're talking about, Acuff has the higher ceiling. I would agree with you there. But he might have the higher ceiling, but it doesn't mean that Kingston Flemings might not be the better fit for this franchise. Do you consider that at all in the front office?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think you make a great point. I mean, because that's still part of it. I always say when you look at say the kind of the three guys we're talking about, and maybe even Mikel Brown, that's a marvelous talent from Louisville, and but the thing I look at is like, well, yeah, Kingston Fleming was a lead guard on a highly rated team with a chance, that was one of the favorites to win the championship, and probably the best player on the team as a freshman. So you can't just eliminate that. And then, of course, with Acuff, Arkansas wasn't supposed to be good, and he was so good that he made them, a contender where they weren't supposed to be. So you can't eliminate that. And then Wagler was a guy nobody was recruiting much, goes in as a freshman in Illinois, and gets them a high standing, and then he was the best player on that team. So their credentials are all there, and there's nothing to indicate that any of the three couldn't do exactly what Doug is asking. I mean, I think they're all different, but that doesn't, that's like comparing, the John Stockton to Isaiah Thomas, or
right.
It's like, well, yeah, they're different, but who would you rather have? Well, I don't know. Either one will work.
Yeah. Nope, I hear you. A lot of people think Wagler's going to be a little bit more of a project. I think Fleming's has the best handles out of the three of them. Is there one to you that you think is better suited to step on the floor and handle the ball in the NBA day one?
Yeah, I do. I think Acuff. I do.
Okay.
And I think he's the better passer. I mean, I think his passing is really good.
Okay.
I think, he had more assists, and I think his assist turnover ratio was even better and Fleming's was really good, but Fleming's on a better team had 5 assists a game, and really with Acuff averaging 24 or 5 points a game, still had 6.5 assists a game.
Yeah.
And 1.5 or 2 turnovers a game. So that's, I guess you get into this, you're splitting hairs, and what I don't know, or maybe you don't know, is with the Scott Perry, they've had a chance to, not just study the player, but their backgrounds, who they are personally, who, and so that's what will come down, and at some point those things we can't know may very well make the difference, and they should make the difference. And then, of course, maybe the most important thing, Ryno, we always forget, is that 2 of the 3 probably ain't going to be there anyway.
That's right. Spot on. I've said that almost every day this week.
We can sit here and I can say, well, I think this will be the better guy. Well, he ain't there. So, because I heard a rumor a week ago or less than a week ago from a friend that has a tiny bit of insight, I think, into things, or maybe more than that. But he said Memphis, if they could trade John Morant, would draft Acuff.
Yep. There you go. You go.
So that could shake things up, and the rumors that the Clippers might even draft Mara at 5. Nobody, I never had heard that, but I got thinking, well, yeah, with the way size is in the NBA, and they don't have a center. They might feel like that Mara would do more for him than a guard right now.
Well, it's about having that guy that can deal with Wemby, right?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to at this point. If you're building a roster in the NBA, you have to have one of those players.
You're going to have to, you got to think, well, we've got to deal with Wemby, Jokic, and go Bear to some level differently, but you got those guys to deal with. And so, when I first heard it, I thought, well, actually, it makes a lot of sense for the Clippers, more so, because maybe they can get another guard another way. They got their point guard, so it's really a matter of getting a shooting guard, and I think we all know that it's probably an easiest position to fill, really.
Yep, very true. Red California says Wemby looked great in Game 1 and Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals. Do you think Wemby already has a better bag than LeBron?
Not yet. LeBron was, when he came to the league, he was better right away.
Yeah.
He was a major star day one. Wemby really wasn't. This is his 3rd year. Now he's dealt with injuries, and I'm not bagging on him. I mean, I think he's got a chance to be, you know, an all-time great. You know, I mean, for a lot of reasons. But I think there's still some things he needs to do. But I always say when LeBron's one of the only 18-year-old that really was able to come into the league and make a bad team better immediately in the history of the game. And I mean, I think certainly Jabbar, if he could have came out of high school, would have done the same, or Oscar Robertson probably in their era. But you know, that wasn't available to him. But so just comparing, you know, because Wemby's first year as a rookie, the Spurs won 22 games.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
that's how they got Castle.
exactly. It's insane. Has there been a better back-to-back-to-back draft or drafting?
No,
I don't think there.
You know, of course, I made a suggestion. I think it was on Whitey show a week or so ago. I said, you know, first thing I'd do if I were the Kings, and this was before the playoffs, I said I'd offer the 7th pick to San Antonio for Harper. You know, and a couple fans, you know, the Spurs, they would do that in a minute. And I was thinking, no, I don't think they would.
I don't think they would. Yeah.
But I mean, it'd be worth a try. And I think if in my mind is from what you've seen of Harper, I think there would be honestly less risk. Not that there's great risk with Acuff or Kingston Fleming, but I think Harper with his size and what he's already shown. But I mean, I know Spurs wouldn't do it. They'd trade Fox before they'd trade Harper.
Yeah, the Spurs seem to, and everybody is using the term ahead of schedule. When I saw Wemby in person this year, that's when my mind changed. And it wasn't just Wemby, it was also Steph Castle.
Yeah.
How big he is, how physical he is. His basketball IQ is through the roof, but he needs to control himself at times. That temperament needs to get better. The Spurs have a little bit of that it as a team that you cannot create. It just happens organically. Those guys look like they love playing together. They like being together, and it translates to the basketball court.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think when you look at great teams, always look at the top of the roster, their stars, and really Wembanyama is certainly that. But he's also probably the natural leader, even though he's young, and he's unselfish.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very competitive, you know, and I mean, the perfect storm, so to speak. I mean, when you go back through the years, I mean, the great teams, and whether it's been a LeBron or a Jordan or a Magic or Bird or, you know, the all-time greats that really went in and Tim Duncan transformed their teams. That's the things they had, and then almost your teammates have to get in line. You know, if there's an old saying, if your best player is also your hardest worker and a natural leader, you know, what's the 7th man going to do? Pretty hard for him to take it.
That's right. That's right. And how about Mike Brown and the Knicks? Their ratings right now, the way they're shooting the ball, they're on a historic playoff run. They're running into a monster, but how do you match these two teams up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really have enjoyed watching the Knicks, and I think Mike's just done a marvelous job. You know, since the first series against Atlanta, when they really were struggling, and he did a marvelous thing. Really, kind of changed his offense. Really, kind of went back to almost the Sabonis Kings.
Damn right!
Offense.
I am so glad you said that with Cat.
And you know, and it really took a lot of pressure off of Brunson. He didn't have to dribble his way to points all the time, and he still can do it. But I mean, it just made it easier for him and everybody else. And the ball is flowing so well, and their offense just immediately got 10, 15 points better. And of course, then just from that point on, they've just kicked everybody's butt. Now, how they're going to do against the Spurs, because as smooth as that is, it's going to be less smooth against the Spurs because you got the big rejector in the back, and Castle and Vassell and Fox and Harper. Those guys get after you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I like the Knicks' chances, but you know, it wouldn't. I mean, I honestly think the Spurs are more talented, but I just the youth maybe And it really is going to come down to, can OG Anunoby slow Wemby, which he did during the regular season. But this is not the regular season. But he was able to do that, and that's and it kept, so he didn't have to put Cat on him and get in foul trouble.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so it's great points, by the way. And that's immediately with Cat when Mike Brown made that switch. I'm like, he's doing the Sacramento thing. He's doing the two-headed monster where it's either the big man distributing or it's Fox, the quick guy, and Brunson doing his thing on the perimeter. I'm like, it works. It's how it was supposed to work. That's what was working on the Beam team. But I don't put a lot usually into teams that go long into series and rest and all that. But with Wemby, because physically he's a little bit different, he only played 29 minutes per game in the regular season. You saw in the Western Conference Finals where he had his ups and downs. Do you worry about fatigue with him if you're the Spurs?
Yeah, I think you do. And I think if you're the Knicks, you're going to want them to worry about it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big part of your strategy. You're going to try to really play as much pace as you can, make it as physical on him as you can, and just make it very difficult. I mean, because if you feel like, well, the longer the series goes, maybe the better our chances are. So, yeah, if you're the Knicks, I think that's what you have to do. And if you're the Spurs, you try to give him rest where you can. I mean, I think with Cornette, they do have a legitimate backup guy. Maybe you can steal 12, 14 minutes a game in there somewhere.
Sure.
For Wemby. But, there's definitely a game within a game going on. And, yeah, I think with Wembanyama, the only thing that keeps him from being one of the all-time top 5, 10 players in the world history is develop a post game. And I worry a little about that. His body type, with his legs, he has a tough time holding position, and that's why you see him shooting a lot of turnaround jump shots or face up shots. That was always 100 years ago when Ralph Sampson looked like he could be an all-time great in a different time, but he could never play in the post well. But then he didn't have to because he had Olajuwon.
Yeah. Well, I think exactly. I think too, it's part of just his legs are so long. The target is so much bigger because, Jerry, if you're like Caruso, if you're pushing on the legs like that, it's going to be hard for anybody, even if you're built.
Yeah. The big thing on post play is really the ass. You need a lower center of gravity and big butt. I said, Wayman Tisdale could post up anybody. I mean, he could.
True.
I mean, he was 6'7.5", 6'8", but he had a big rear end, and the defenders, I mean, he'd get them on his rear end, and they couldn't get around him. And you look through the Moses Malones or the great centers of the past, Shaq. I mean, they could hold position because they had the big strong legs and low center of gravity kind of thing.
Right.
And the big ass and now I think Wemby will get stronger, and I think that'll all get better, but that might be, that's part of his game. He's got to get better because just playing on as much as he does offensively on the perimeter, he's there are 6'6" guys that can shoot it as good or better.
True. And I'll be looking at, the other thing about Wemby, before I say that, is he's got to quit bringing the ball down. He brings the ball down too much when he's driving to the hoop. He's got to, Jerry, this with the big guys, got to keep it up here, especially when you're that big.
Yep. And, you worry about him injury-wise, I think, a little bit there, I mean, with his body type, because he's so gifted, but he can beat people off the dribble and get into the paint in traffic. And and that's a concern I'd have anything, because he has had missed significant time in every year so far, in all 3 years he's been in the league. So injuries, he's got to, it's kind of like the quarterback. You've got to protect him from himself a little bit.
Yeah, he does go all out when he's on the floor. He is reckless abandon.
He's one of those guys that I wouldn't pay to see many people play, but I'd pay to see him.
Amen. Okay. So Mitchell Robinson tonight. You think he, one, can be effective with the hand, and two, you saw Hartenstein kind of dragging on Wemby, and that affected him a little bit. Can Mitchell Robinson be that guy? Ooh, we lost Jer. See if we can get Jer back. Jerry's like, no, I'm done. Nope. That's it. That was my last obligated question. So I'm out of here. It's like, you don't get the show, Ryno.
You don't get the show.
You get 25 questions with me, and that's it. I fade to black. That's what Jerry says. We'll see if we can get... Oh,
For some reason.
I can hear you. He's working through it. Let's see if we can get him back. We'll see if we can get him back. Jerry is much better than Napes when it comes to the IT. He's back.
I'm back. I'll tell you what happened, I think. My wife just called, and it showed up on my iPad, and then all of a sudden I went off. And I told her not to call, but then again, she's my wife. She don't pay attention. And so anyway.
Priorities.
So for all of you that been married a length of time, you totally understand my position there.
Yeah, that's not a good position. Because especially like if she knows you're doing something and she's calling, it's like, okay, all right, I need.
Well, she forgot. I mean, she's great about that, but she's like me. She'll remember one thing at 1 minute and forget it next. So
I was joking around. I said, I hit my last obligated question. You're like, I'm out. Don't even think about asking me another one.
Yeah.
So Mitchell Robinson, do you think he can have much of an effect, one, with the hand, and two, kind of do that Hartenstein hang on Wemby thing in this series?
I think he can give him some minutes. I don't know if he can be 100%, but I mean, it's not like he can shoot anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think they're just hoping you can give him some fouls and put the body on him, just like you said. They're probably not going to get the 100% Mitchell Robinson, but I think he can help them. I think so that's really all you can say there. I mean, if he were an offensive player and had to dribble and shoot and pass, which he doesn't really have to do any of those things, where it'll affect him the most is just rebounding.
Sure won't affect his free throws. They might be better, Jerry.
It might actually improve it. So
imagine that, a couple screws in the hand, and now you're a couple percentage points better at the free throw line. Lucky to have Jerry here. We'll have him a lot of this summer here on the King's Court. Before we wrap up, I have we'll have to get your pick for tonight in the series, but true or false, Domantas Sabonis cannot be traded until Giannis is moved.
Well, I think that's false. I think you can, I don't know that one has it to do with the other. Teams that are interested in Giannis aren't interested in Domantas. So,
okay.
I mean, I think the fact that, that when Giannis gets traded, it might open up some things, but I don't think there's any teams that's trying to get Giannis saying, well, if we can't get Giannis, we want Domas. I think it's a apples and oranges thing.
Okay. True or false, Domantas Sabonis will start for the Kings night 1 this coming season?
I think he will. I think he'll
be
starting center or 4. I really think, I almost be surprised if Coach Christie doesn't try to go a too big high, much like the Divac Weber years on the elbows with Ryno. They're both good passers. I think that's the likely outcome. I think that probably with Zach LaVine and Domas, I think their best chances for a good deal might be at trade deadline.
Okay. True or false, DeMar DeRozan will be on the roster night 1.
I don't believe he will.
Okay.
I think just with his contract differential, with how good he was this year, I think at some point, some team, there's plenty of teams that could use him. They'll figure that out, and there'll be a deal somewhere there. So that'd be my thought.
Jerry, before the playoffs started, you said there's going to be a team that's kicking themselves for not going to get him. I can count how many teams in the playoffs that really could have used that second option.
Yeah, Houston for sure. I thought the Clippers. I think there's many, but those two just in the West come to mind right away. That the way they played and what they didn't have and needed, and because you always say any team that needs scoring, the guy can score.
Yes, he can.
The guy is efficient and he's a good teammate. Yeah, the ball's going to stop a little bit, but sometimes if the ball's going to stop, you'd prefer it to stop with somebody who can shoot it and score it.
Well said. Well said. Okay, now let's get to the NBA Finals. Who you got tonight, and who do you have for the series?
I've got the Spurs tonight, and I'm going to take the Knicks in the series.
Wow. Okay, how many games?
I think it'll go 7.
Interesting. X factor for the Knicks?
Jalen Brunson's always the X factor.
Okay.
I mean, because I think, a lot of people would say, well, boy, Castle's going to be tough for him. And I would think he would be. Castle's tough for everybody. But Brunson, that little buckaroo, he's, he's kind of a different version he's a physical version of Steph Curry who can't shoot as good from the outside, but finds a way to get in the inside better.
I know. Isn't he like kind of the mix between like a Curry and a Nash? He just does circles around people.
Yeah, with all of his spinning and he's very physical. People kind of forget that his size. I mean, he puts hits on guys, and he's not. I mean, he'll bump guys, but he doesn't flop or anything. He's taking punishment, but he'll give it. And of course, Castle is a bigger version of that. I think it's going to be interesting because if they can make Brunson a 15-point a game scorer, then Spurs going to win. But I'm just not sure. I think we've seemed like every playoff or every game you think somebody can guard the guy, and they haven't yet.
True. I'm not as worried about the officiating this series as I was last series, but have you been bothered much by the officiating this postseason?
Oh, yeah, but I've gotten used to it. I'm past that. It's like, well, it is what it is. And for the most part, the best teams won. So that's about how I look at it.
I mean, Adam Silver always turns that dial up. This year, I think he took a little too far. That was crazy.
I agree. Yeah, it definitely was back into the 80s, and I don't know that we needed that. I mean, maybe early 2000s would have been okay, but there's a lot of contact. It was pretty unnecessary.
You said it went back to the 80s.
Oh yeah,
you should have had him in the short shorts, the tight jerseys.
Well, yeah, or like when in the 80s when Robert Parrish could punch Bill Laimbeer and doesn't even get thrown out of the game.
Yeah. You kind of saw that in the play. It's not necessarily a punch, but like stuff that would have been a flagrant one. Sure. It's a common foul, Yeah,
like the elbow to the face of, with Wembanyama so tall, and I get that maybe they let some things slide, but still, it was an elbow to the face.
Oh,
they didn't call flagrant foul. And so, yeah, I think it's one of those things where they wanted to keep the top players on the floor. We all get that. They wanted to, let it be more physical where baskets are earned. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Try to, just try to make a defense a little more important, which they did. Like I say, I think they got a little carried away where you can attack the ball handlers in particular. A little too much.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I'm with you.
Too much. Yeah.
And that's what makes replay. That's the double edge of replay, because if you challenge something, it's an approximate, looking for the approximate foul. Like on camera, yes, it's a foul, but it doesn't really meet the level of what you're calling in real time. And it puts the officials in that really funny spot.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, they got the best officials the league has calling it. So, and everybody's watching. So, I'll still stand. That generally speaking, I think that whoever deserves to win will probably win. We can hash it out later if that doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's they're going to miss a lot of calls. I can tell you that much right now. There's going to be a lot of calls missed.
Yep. Amen. Well, buddy, I can't thank you enough. The time goes so quick when we're here. I forget that we're doing a show. Just feels like we're catching up.
Well, I've really enjoyed it. I missed you, big boy.
I miss you too.
So, and the fans, and so can't wait till next week then.
All right, well, be well,
and then we can talk about all the things we were wrong about.
Yeah, exactly. We'll keep going into the draft. Get your walks in early. Stay cool. Stay hydrated.
Okay. All right, we'll do that. All right,
buddy. Can't wait to talk to you next week. Thanks, Jared. Appreciate you.
Take care. Thanks.
All right, the one and only. Right here, Wednesdays, King's Court, Jerry Reynolds. You kidding me? That's a great conversation. It's a great conversation. His basketball IQ, his memories, it's just the best. It just makes, he's the best. What can you say? What a beauty. Tristan, I'm pretty sure that's a great question. I'm going to have to go to replay for that. We'll see. John, sorry I didn't get your question in about the coach in the tanking. It's hard to kind of get that in with what we were talking about. I'll get that in next week. Jerry getting a ton of love. Let's see. How's the weekend been? I don't know. It's Wednesday. So much fun talking to Jer. So where you at for tonight? Jerry's got the Knicks winning the championship. I could see it. I don't know that it'll happen, but I could see it. They have the ingredients. Let's put it that way. They have the ingredients to make things, or I'm not going to say make things hard. They have the ingredients to show Victor Wembanyama different looks. But can they shoot the three ball at a 40% clip like they have? I mean, think about like seeing Josh Hart. He's going to be flying in there for boards over Wemby. Steph Castle, the composure. Can he keep it? I don't think you're going to see a different physicality. I don't think you're going to see anything that was more physical than the Western Conference Finals. This game will be physical in a different way. So I don't know if Steph Castle is getting as much to that red line where he starts to go over or not in this series, but I want to see how the Knicks react to those first few rotations in the half court by the Spurs, because when the Spurs are switching in the half court, I mean, you blink and somebody else is on you, whether it's Harper, whether it's Fox, whether it's Castle, whether it's Vassell, Champagny, they're all about the same size, and it's just suffocating. Teams can't get inside of a 12-foot arc, but I said a couple weeks ago, I said during the Eastern Conference Finals that Mike Brown has been running the Kings offense. He's doing it with the cat stuff. He was running cat like Domas, and Jerry comes on, saw the exact same thing. So that can also be very effective. Let's check in. Mike Brown. Let's check in with Mike Brown in the locker room right now before the game.
Let the dogs out. Woo, woo, woo.
There he is.
Let the dogs out. Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, that was Mike Brown yesterday. I saw the corgi thing. Is that corgi like pick games, I guess? Yeah. Of course. Then there's this guy. Haunted horse. I'm not going to see anything. Signed Stevie Wonder. We're doing Jim Rome form here. Horse, I never know what to play from you. It's roulette. I don't know what's going to come up. I mean, this is an all-timer.
Not so fast, midget. Not so fast.
Midget.
Yeah, little guy.
Little guy. But, okay, if I go to a haunted horse drop, am I going to have to cut it off immediately? I don't know. Let's try. Let's see what this says.
Let's go see a porno.
Oh, there we go. Got to cut that off. Not appropriate for the King's Court. Like I said, we could do a haunted horse roulette day where I don't know what this guy is going to say.
I didn't know there were 2 holes.
Oh, there. I don't know what he's going to say. Nobody does. Go join him 5:00. You can figure out what he's going to say. He'll be on HollywoodRejects.com. Blind Cat. I know you would pull last night's drop. Nah, I can't pull that here. That's the problem. I cannot pull that here. All right. Great. Jerry Reynolds Wednesday. Thank you to everybody for showing up. Enjoy game 1 of the NBA Finals. We've got post game tonight for the NBA Finals as well. So make sure that you join us right here. If you don't like that, be breaking down game 1 and everything else topical in the news. My thanks to Jerry Reynolds for joining us Wednesdays, every Wednesday. Make sure you mark that down, and looking forward to being back tonight with Grant. Thanks to all of you again. Have a great afternoon. We're back on the King's Court tomorrow. Before that, post game tonight. Courts dismissed.